So I want to tell you about a story of betrayal between what happened with King David. The story of Mephibosheth and Ziba. I may not be pronouncing the name right, but basically who Mephibosheth was, he was the great-grandson of King Saul. And, Saul tried to destroy David because he was jealous of him and all that stuff. So when did it David never killed Saul. Saul ended up killing himself and having his servant kill him, and then his servant killed himself. And what happened was, once David's enemies were completely destroyed, Saul was destroyed, his son was destroyed, everybody was destroyed, there was one person that survived. And it was this crippled grandson. His name was Mephibosheth. And you have to look it up. The story's out of 2 Samuel chapter 9. Mephibosheth. It's a very long name. He was the son of Jonathan. So it was Saul's grandson. Jonathan and David were friends, as you know. And David asked, he's like, is there anybody that survived from Saul's lineage? And he found out, well, this young grandson named Mephibosheth. He said, well, have him come over here. He can seat at my table. Now, David could have easily destroyed his enemies. But he was like, no, I'm going to honor Saul because he was the king. And I'm going to let him sit at my table and he can live in the palace with me. So he let him, Mephibosheth, he let him in his home. Now, what happened was Saul had wealth, as you know, because he was the king of Israel, and he had his servant in charge of everything, his estate. His servant's name was Ziba. Now, Ziba is a very interesting, sinister character, and I'm going to show you now in the story. So what happened was, there was Ziba. Once Saul died, he inherited all the land. So Saul was very wealthy. He's like, man, all this land that I was serving for my master is now mine, because Saul, when King Saul died, he had no heirs. So what happened was, when he found out about this Mephibosheth, he lost all that. He lost all that because it would go into the next line of the next male heir, and this was Mephibosheth. He's like, oh man, I got to share this with this cripple. So anyway, what happened was Mephibosheth went ahead and went to the King David, new king, and then what happened was he was basically had to share. He didn't inherit all that stuff. Love the pause button on the video, so that's really cool. I love it. So anyway, so what happened was Ziba was the servant. Ziba was the one taking care of everything while Saul was away fighting David. There's a big battle that happened. This went on for years. Anyway, to make a long story short, what ended up happening was, once Saul died, Ziba took over everything. Found out there was one survivor, Mephibosheth, so he lost everything. And you could tell Ziba was jealous. Ziba wanted to get revenge, and I'm going to tell you what happened later on. So anyway, as the years progressed, Ziba just said, I'm going to bide my time. Now Ziba, he had 15 sons and 20 servants. 15 sons. I had to look it up. If you want to look it up, it's between 2 Samuel chapter 9 and 2 Samuel chapter 19. You can read those whole chapters. That'll be your reference. You can look for it. Then what happened was, after that, there was a big fight between David and his son Absalom. Absalom was very handsome. He had long hair, and he led a revolt against David. And David fled Jerusalem. Ziba was like, this is my opportunity. This is my chance. So as David was fleeing Jerusalem, King David, okay, this is years later, maybe like 15, 20 years later, I don't know. But as David was fleeing Jerusalem, he was confronted by this servant Ziba, who had he was in charge of all of Saul's wealth. And he said, even though he wasn't going to inherit it because it went to Mephibosheth. So Ziba meets David as he's fleeing with donkeys. He's got donkeys, he's got fruit, he's got food for his men. And he said, "Oh, here you are, King David. I've gotten this for you." And Ziba goes and he tells David. David asks him. He says, "Well, where's Mephibosheth? You know, the heir. Why isn't he here?" He's like, Ziba goes and tells David. He says, "He has betrayed you. He has betrayed you. He went ahead and led a revolt, and he joined Absalom to overthrow you." And David was stunned. He was betrayed. It was like a stab in his heart. He's like, here it is. He let this guy in his home. He went ahead and he could have killed him. He should have killed him. He could have killed all his lineage of Saul. But he didn't do that. He let him in his home. He welcomed him. And here he is. After all those years of kindness, he betrayed him and rewarded him with betrayal. And he joined his enemy, Absalom. Because Ziba went and told him, he said that, Mephibosheth said, "Oh, now you can give me back my kingdom, and the kingdom can be restored back to me." Because really, if Mephibosheth was the only surviving heir and the only surviving son, he could have gotten the kingdom back. So what happened was, Absalom, there was a fight between David and Absalom. Make a long story short, Absalom ended up getting, his hair got caught into some trees, and he ended up getting hung up on a tree. And one of David's men saw this, and he stabbed him, he killed him. So Absalom was dead. So this rebellion has been squashed. So David comes back to Jerusalem, and he takes his throne, and he sees his throne room, and he gets back in power. And he finds Mephibosheth over there, the guy that betrayed him. And Mephibosheth is like in rags, and he's unkempt. And Mephibosheth, he was crippled, so he couldn't walk. So he's a mess. So he goes, "Hey, what happened to you? I thought you had went with Absalom." He's like, "No, I didn't leave. I didn't betray you. I wanted to leave." Mephibosheth says, "I wanted to leave, and I wanted to come with you, King David. Nobody's been nicer to me. Nobody's been kinder to me than you have." He says, "I wanted to come with you, but Ziba, my servant, he went ahead and said that I couldn't come. And he denied me, and he took everything from me." And so David was like shocked. He's like, here he come to find out that Mephibosheth had betrayed him. He didn't betray him at all. It was all a lie by Ziba, because Ziba wanted his wealth. Now, that being said, it doesn't deny that Ziba did help him as David was fleeing. Ziba did help him, so he's really cunning and really smart. So what happened was, after that, David says, "Okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to kill Ziba?" And at this time, David says, "Okay, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to divide this wealth between Ziba and Mephibosheth, because I'm not going to kill Ziba, because even though he created this lie, he did help me, and maybe he might have helped him substantially. I don't know." Now, while David was making his rule, Mephibosheth was quiet. He didn't object. Not only Mephibosheth was quiet, he said, he can take all of the land. He can have it all. He says, I just want to be here and be a part of his family, basically. And what happened was, David said, "No, I'm going to divide it." So he gave 50% to Ziba and gave 50% to Mephibosheth. And that was how that story ended. But it doesn't change what really happened. What happened was, Mephibosheth, he lived on, through his children. His children, he had many children and lived on, and through his lineage came Yeshua, came Christ. That was through that, and he was honored God honored him away. Now, Ziba, his name fell into obscurity. He may have gotten the wealth, but his name fell into obscurity. And it's just a powerful lesson about betrayal and about how things that we think that you think you're going to get away with stuff with God, but you're not going to get away with anything. He sees it all. So I just wanted to share that with you. I think it's a really powerful story because Ziba was so cunning. Like, he never accused Mephibosheth while it was ruling. He never tried to defend himself. He just sat there in silence. And it's just really, really amazing how a liar, a cunning, manipulative person, when they're caught, they're going to stay silent because they know that the best thing to do is to be silent, because that way it'll unfold in their favor, and it did unfold in his favor. Anyway, I just want to share that story with you. I thought it was a powerful story. If you look in 2 Samuel chapter 9, and you can look in 2 Samuel chapter 19. It'll talk about 19 verse 30. It'll talk about how it finally ended. I'm going to see if I can read something to you here. And so Mephibosheth just stayed quiet. And that's the thing while the king made his ruling. But this is just an amazing. He said 2 Samuel chapter 19 verse 26. He said, "O Lord my God, my servant Ziba deceived me. For I said, saddle me the donkey that I may ride on it and go to the king, for your servant is lame." He couldn't walk. "And he has slandered your servant to my lord the king. But the king is an angel of God, so good. So do what is good in your eyes. For all of my father's house were but doomed to death before my lord the king. Yet your servant among those ate at your own table. What right that therefore have I to cry any more to the king?" So this was King David said, "Okay, go ahead and divide the land." And Mephibosheth said, "Let him take it all." And it's just powerful. Mephibosheth wasn't greedy. He was all about peace, and he said, "Let Ziba take it all," because he cared for it. And that is a person who's humble, who's loyal, and really was just amazing. That Ziba went and lied about him, yet he just didn't hold any grudge. He said, "Let him take it all. He could have it all." So it's a very powerful story. I would encourage you to read it and look it up. Okay, take care. Thanks for watching. God bless you.